Press the button, my friend.
The Out of Bounds Show is live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge in the Bank Plus studio.
Check it out.
Good morning. Welcome in. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone ESPN, brought to you by the Corner Market grocery stores in the state of Mississippi. They'll get you ready for Thanksgiving and the holidays. New one in Macomb, another one coming in Starkville from Hattiesburg to Jackson. Over 20-something locations. The official grocery store of the Out of Bounds Show is Corner Market grocery stores in the state of Mississippi. They're out of Hattiesburg. Obviously, one in Belhaven, right by Fertile Ground Brewery, one in Fondren, right by Highball Eats, and one on Northside Drive, right by Bravo. Corner Market grocery stores, over 20 locations, the official grocery store of the Out of Bounds Show. You're listening to ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We've got a big giveaway today. We've got a Come to the Sip Sugar Bowl sweatshirt. It's awesome. Egg Bowl. Lane Kiffin wore it the week of he didn't wear this one, but he wore a sweatshirt down in the Sugar Bowl press conferences. It's Come to the Sip. It's got the Sugar Bowl logo emblem on the sleeve. And then we have two GOAT shirts, one blue and white with the number 10 and one maroon and white with the number 15. So we'll have three winners. How do you enter to win? Hit us up on the Ag Up Equipment text line. 601-885-3776. Best text on Thanksgiving and food or something crazy that a relative does, and or the Golden Egg game or any rivalry games this week. We'll have three winners, so that's exciting too. You can watch the show right now on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. We welcome in David Johnson, 247 Sports, Ole Miss, Rebels 247. And he joins us on the Yuengling Lager guest line. David, usually I would lead with the Golden Egg, and we'll get to that as Ole Miss goes for three in a row against Mississippi State, and they're the favorite tomorrow night in Oxford. But I'd like to get your thoughts. Do you think Lane Kiffin will go to Auburn?
Yeah, what a great question. Seems like I've been asked that about 1,000 times before this week. I can only go by what we see out there, what sources are telling us. And, right now my answer is yes. I think he's going to Auburn. I hope I'm wrong. Ole Miss would be the better for keeping Lane here. There's no doubt about that. But I just don't like the way this looks. I don't like the way it smells. And I believe at this moment that he'll be coaching his last game for Ole Miss Thursday night. And again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I have egg on my face for saying it. But, we've all seen these things play out before, and, this seems to be one of them. So it's unfortunate. It takes a lot of attention away from this big game that means so much to so many people in the state of Mississippi. But we've got to play the game. We'll see what happens Thursday night. And then, for Ole Miss fans, there's no reprieve. They'll be keeping their eye on our site, Inside the Rebels, on Twitter, on social media, I think for the next 2 or 3 days to see how this is going to resolve itself.
Okay. So the game, Ole Miss started off a 5.5-point favorite. It's been bet down to 2.5 points. When you, first of all, who do you think will win? And then walk me through the matchup that you're looking at in the game.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, with all the things going on with Ole Miss and, is this a distraction for them? Yes. We all saw that in Fayetteville Saturday night. That was a distracted football team. I think you're still going to have a distracted football team, but I think you're going to have determined kids. I think they're going to go out there and they're going to want to play their best, and they are. I think Ole Miss is going to win a close one, and here's why. I think it comes down to the Ole Miss offensive line and how they handle the Mississippi State defensive front. And if they're able to open some holes, I think Quinshon Judkins and Zach Evans kind of run wild in this one, much as they did Saturday night at Arkansas. And I think Ole Miss's defense hopefully is going to be able to muster up enough gumption, if you will, that their offense scores a few more points.
Okay. Are you expecting like high 20s, low 30s for Ole Miss, more? Where are you as far as kind of where the scoring will land, David?
Yeah, Bo, I put my predictions out this morning. I picked Ole Miss to win 31-28. And that's where I'm at, high 50s to mid-60s range. I think that's the scoring output is going to be. We've got to factor in the weather, potentially a sloppy, wet game Thursday night. So, that'll play a small part, but you'd be surprised how good those ball boys are at getting dry balls in the game.
That's true.
I really don't think I don't think it matters as much back in like it did maybe back in the 1950s when you maybe had two balls to play the whole game.
Sure.
And they were waterlogged.
That's right. That's a good point. David Johnson, InsideTheRebels.com, and I'm on it right now. It's been very, very active this week. As David said, you have a very important game tomorrow night. Ole Miss hosting Mississippi State. You don't have the opportunity to win 3 in a row often. It could be Lane's last game. He could go out as a 3-0 Golden Egg record. And then we'll see what happens over the weekend. I like where David's going on the Ole Miss offensive line versus the Mississippi State defensive line. I think the MSU defensive line has been disappointing this year, and I don't think they're well coached either. So I think some of those guys may thrive a little bit more as super late round picks or free agents a little bit later. David Johnson on the Yuengling Lager guest line. Any injuries of guys that will play, but maybe like 70, 80% coming out of the Arkansas game, David Johnson?
Really, I think the only thing you can look at is whether or not Michael Trigg plays. Broke his collarbone earlier in the year, and there were reports out that he would play against Alabama. That didn't happen. Didn't play against Arkansas. Honestly, I just don't know how far along he is on his recovery. He's been dressing but not being used. So other than that, Ole Miss is pretty healthy going into this game to be this late in the season. And ironically, I think Mississippi State's pretty healthy too. So, we're just going to see what happens. I mean, it's a very odd Egg Bowl. I mean, at least from the Ole Miss fans' perspective.
I think Mississippi. I'll tell you. Look, if Ole Miss wins, and I expect them to tomorrow night, they're actually going to bring Leach back. He's not going to get fired unless something just insane happens, and so he will be the first coach brought back after 3 in a row. Well, we don't know of one, actually. Emory Bellard was fired, losing 3 in a row. Rocky Felker was fired, losing 3 in a row. Last time Ole Miss won 3 in a row, they won it over a combo of coaches, as you know, David. They beat Sherrill twice and then Kroom once. So it has been a long time since one coach took the 3 in a row, which was Felker in 88, 89, and 90. And Leach will be slap dab on the hot seat for 2023 if he loses tomorrow night. So just wanted to throw that out there to you.
Yeah, and I get that. I understand that. This is an important game. I think for Ole Miss fans, it's actually become a little less important under Lane Kiffin, just because, he has been so effective at number one, recruiting nationally, and number two, encapsulating the season into one game at a time. And, I guess you attribute it to the pro mindset that he put into the program. But I will say this, he has not been effective over the last 2 weeks holding this crisis down in Oxford. And honestly, it's of his own creation. It is totally of his own creation. And
he hadn't handled it well.
No, he has not handled it well.
I mean, considering just about everything he's done since he got there, he's nailed it. He hadn't handled this well.
I agree. And, and it's kind of funny when you read the message boards and things where the most rabid Ole Miss fans are. A lot of them have turned on him already. And, they're ready to move on. And that's just kind of crazy considering, the guy could have got elected mayor of Oxford 10 times over.
No doubt.
Just a few weeks ago.
No doubt.
And now, everything has kind of shifted. Everything's kind of changed. And, I guess from an Ole Miss fan point of view, you're just waiting for that final dagger to be driven into your heart. And that's sad. But I think if he decided not to go to Auburn, Ole Miss fans would embrace him back immediately.
Yep.
And be just as excited as they were 2 weeks ago.
No doubt.
So, obviously Lane has a decision to make, and we're not privy to everything going on behind the scenes. I do know Keith Carter and Dr. Glenn Boyce, the chancellor here, both recognize and understand the value of Lane Kiffin. All-time freshman enrollment numbers, and while they can't be directly attributed to football, we know it plays a part.
No question.
The publicity for the university, I don't think you can put a price tag on that in terms of what you pay a coach. It's been incredible. So, they're going to fight to keep him. They're both fighters. They're going to get in and get after it, and they're doing that right now. The question is, I think ultimately with Lane, it's NIL sustainability. They've done a great job with the Grove Collective over the last couple of months, increasing membership, driving the monetary numbers up to where they're at a competitive space inside the SEC. But the question is, can you do that every single year? Can you do that next year? Can you do that 5 years from now and 10 years from now? Because Ole Miss is a relatively small school when it comes to the SEC. And, ultimately, whatever ends up happening with NIL, everything's going to set back to where it was prior to NIL. It's going to set back with the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Tennessees and the LSUs having the most to work with.
Yeah.
And, it's a shame, but that's what's going to happen. And schools like Ole Miss and like Mississippi State can only do what they can do, and they've got to think outside of the box. And, I think Ole Miss has done a great job of doing that with the Grove Collective under Walker Jones. But, when I would imagine when Lane sits down and he's contemplating Ole Miss or Auburn, which place is that going to be an easier job at? Auburn.
Yeah.
They've got more people. They've got more boosters, more fans, more students, more money. And, I think, Bo, ultimately that's what it's going to boil down to for Lane Kiffin. I do believe the meeting he had yesterday with his team, I think he was honest with them in a sly kind of way. He told them he has not been offered a job. He has not taken a job. He is the coach of the Ole Miss Rebels. True. Very true. But, what happens Friday, Saturday, Sunday of this weekend?
And then you'll be, if this all plays out, InsideTheRebels.com will be nuts, because then it'll be all about a coaching hot board. And Keith Carter will be rolling around the country in a plane interviewing guys. David?
A little bit different this year, though, because of the NIL and the transfer rule. You'll also, in addition to a coaching search, this would lead to, who's leaving the roster, who might be following him, all kind of things going on. So you're right. December will be crazy.
InsideTheRebels.com, 247 Sports, all right? InsideTheRebels.com. It's David Johnson, Yuengling Lager guest line. He has Ole Miss winning 3 in a row, and I do like where he went as far as the Ole Miss offensive line versus the Mississippi State defensive line, and I think that's something to keep an eye on throughout the game, but even more so early. David Johnson, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Thanks for taking some time on a Wednesday, and we'll catch up soon.
Happy Thanksgiving, Bo.
Take care. David Johnson on the Yuengling Lager guest line, and he's got Ole Miss winning the game 31-28, and he's looking at that Ole Miss O-line versus the Mississippi State defensive line. They'll have their hands full, but so will those linebackers with all the eye candy and different things that Lane Train likes to do. Lane Train actually uses all parts of the field, right? Sideline to sideline, but also vertical. And you know he's going to want to scheme up Malik Heath and get him touches, especially after Malik spent a couple years at Mississippi State. Plus, he's their best receiver right now. Mingo's good, and Watkins can play, but Heath has been the guy. And one thing, they may not be, unbelievable in the passing game, but, man, they can hit you big. And I think it's because they hit you with Judkins and Evans and maybe Dart, and you're so focused on the line of scrimmage, and all of a sudden guys get, behind you. Or, again, Kiffin's maybe the best in the game right now at creating a mismatch and creating space for some of his guys. So we'll keep an eye on that too. Good grief. Blake?
Yes, sir.
Auburn has 250,000 living alums.
Yeah, just under.
Ole Miss has 120,000 living alums.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a difference. That's a small difference, right?
And
if you get $1 per alum every month, that adds up quick, doesn't it?
Really does.
That's what people don't understand about the Georgia NIL and like what Michigan and why the Big Ten's able to garner such an incredible TV deal despite being such a crappy football product is because it doesn't matter if it's crappy if it's being distributed to 800,000 households.
That's right. And 50 million phones.
It's incredible.
Within the Big Ten.
It's incredible what the size of their alumni are.
So,
and, yeah.
Just to give you an you need numbers. You need numbers, bottom line. Auburn has 250,000 living alums. Mississippi State has 157,000 living alums, and Ole Miss has 120,000 living alums. So, and State's been on that run since the early 70s of having a bigger enrollment. Ole Miss has caught up some, but I'm talking on campus. I'm not talking about Betty Lou driving up from Brookhaven to get a bedpan degree at UMC. But Kayat started counting those, which was very, very smart. But as far as on campus, Mississippi State's been blowing everybody in the state's doors off for about 50 years. And Auburn, 250,000 alums. Mississippi State, 157,000 alums. And Ole Miss, 120,000 alums. Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone ESPN. And when Betty Lou drives over from Vicksburg to get, a whatever degree at UMC, she may be 34 or something. It's different when you're on campus. You get the affinity factor where you want to give back. Where does the majority of the giving come from? The Greek system. Alabama ran a study. Y'all, I don't remember if it was 6, 8, 10 years ago. It was in the Wall Street Journal, and they broke down their giving, and 94% was from the Greek system. Just alums that had in some way, shape, or form been a part of a fraternity or sorority. They're more inclined to give.
Yeah, can I give you another incredible number, too? Because living alums is a great representation of size, right? The pool that you can pull from. But active alumni members also is a great indication of commitment quotient and people who are actively giving back on a monthly basis, right?
No doubt.
Ole Miss has about 25,000 and change in their alumni association. Auburn claims they have a little over 50,000 in their alumni association.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
it's a numbers
double.
game.
It's a double thing. Yeah, we're not talking about 25 to 30,000. You're talking about literally doubled.
Yep.
And that number, and it's the same. Look, we're harping on Ole Miss right now because that's the coach that's.
Oh, it's the same thing at MSU.
If this was Mullen years, we'd be doing the same thing for State. There's no difference.
And Florida's even way, 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 way bigger and more richer than Auburn.
Yep.
So when Dan made that move, we went over all that too. Yeah. The fact, will you look that up, Florida's Living alums, please? Florida Gators, because that brand and that muscle, top 5 academically, they're the biggest brand in the Southeastern Conference. Then when Texas comes in, they can have a big, urinating match, whatever.
I'm surprised Florida lists over 450, but they don't list an exact number.
Okay, so over 450,000 living alums for the University of Florida Gators.
Yeah, in over 150 countries is what they claim.
Okay. All right. Well, how about that? The Out of Bounds show. Speaking of road trips, we've been talking about road trips the last couple of days, and you're going to go to the hunting camp in Oxford and the coast. Blake's going to Dallas. We want you to fuel up at Fleetway Market in any of their 20 locations, including Fleetway Market in Dogwood, Fleetway Market in Madison over by MRA, and Fleetway Market in Gluckstadt. Now, the Market Cafe, which is amazing food at Fleetway Market, is in Gluckstadt and Brookhaven. They have over 20 locations. It's a locally owned Mississippi company that is doing very, very well. Fuel up at Fleetway Market. And that's where you can also grab your goodies, a 6-pack of Yuengling Lager or a little Dos Equis, whatever it is you want. For Blake, some unsweet tea, whatever. Live in the Bank Plus studio, Out of Bounds, ESPN 1059 The Zone. We're streaming live on thezone1059.com. And Lee Sterling has his turkey shootout this weekend. You can find it at ParamountSports.com. He crushed his college football pick last week. And my buddy loaded up and won big. And it was Duke. He nailed it. They're 4-1 on his big picks. He's got another one tomorrow. And it's a blowout special, college football blowout special, powered by ParamountSports.com. So there you go. And by the way, you're going to spend a lot of time tonight, tomorrow, and tomorrow night, and maybe a little bit Friday with family, which is awesome, and having all kinds of hopefully yummy food. And then you're going to want to get out of the house. So you can hit Bulldog Burger in Ridgeland, Starkville, Tupelo. You can hit Sal and Mookie's in Madison or Jackson, or Bravo Italian Restaurant and Bar, or Drago's Charbroiled Oysters. We have wonderful local restaurants, including Burgers, Blues, and Barbecue. My Murfreesboro, Tennessee crew went to B3 for breakfast yesterday morning, two mornings ago, and they loved it. That honey butter chicken biscuit from B3. Wonderful local places. We'll tell you more about the giveaway, and Dave Bartu just hit me. He's up. So he's going to join us at some point in the third hour. Dave Bartu, the Matrix Man, college football's wild man, the numbers nerd. Dave Bartu on the Yuengling Lager guest line. Good morning, welcome in, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.